Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Earth Day with just such a wonderful panel that we have here today with us with RU alumni from our sustainability program. I'm Christy Kotek. I support our alumni relations and career services teams at Roosevelt. I'm also a proud alum. So excited to have you all here joining us this afternoon. Don't forget, we do have a session this evening at 6 o'clock too with another panel of fantastic alumni. So feel free to join us this evening as well as we continue this conversation. But before we get started, I have the pleasure of introducing today's moderator, Mike Brayson. Mike is Professor and Director of Sustainability Studies in the Colleges of Art and Science here at Roosevelt. I think a lot of you joining us today know him, but Mike has been a Roosevelt faculty member since 1996. He is co-founder of the Sustainability Program, which launched in 2010 as the first undergraduate degree program of its kind in the Chicago region. Mike is very heavily involved in campus-wide sustainability efforts here at Roosevelt, and he coordinates and organizes fantastic events like this that we have here today, and is hosting a variety of events throughout Earth Week. So Mike, thank you so much for joining us to lead this conversation. I will go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce our guests and start the conversation.
Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. It's great to see you. I appreciate your attendance at our SUST alumni panel on Earth Day, and happy Earth Day, everyone. It's a beautiful day outside here in the Chicago region, and I hope you've had a chance to get outside a little bit and get some fresh air and nature exposure. I want to briefly introduce just names, really, of our alumni, because the first of the 4 questions I want to ask them in turn is to really introduce themselves. So I don't want to steal their thunder on that. But we have a variety of folks who have graduated from our program from the last several years, including Maria Cancilla, Karen Craig, Rhys Krishnan, Tiffany Mitchie Heightman, and Emily Ray. I'm really grateful to have everybody here. And it looks like folks have got their names in the Zoom thing, so you can see who is who as you look at the screen. And really what we're going to do is have a round of 4 questions where I'm going to give I'm going to encourage all of our panelists to respond briefly to them. And then we're going to hopefully have a decent chunk of time at the end for your attendee questions and comments about anything we talked about or stuff we didn't get to. So without further ado, why don't we begin? The first question is, I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves, when they graduated from the sustainability program, where you live now, and what kind of sustainability work, broadly speaking, things that you've been doing, whether that's on your job, in your community, at home, in creative or service projects, etc. Okay. And I did give these questions to our panelists a couple days ago, so they had a little time to think about it beforehand. Karen, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. My name is Karen Craig, and I graduated in December of 2015. I'm a 13-year resident of East Garfield Park. And, sustainability-wise, I've been a community organizer and an activist in my neighborhood. And I navigate a lot of the collaboration and coalition building at all levels, but starting from the ground up. I recently had worked on a consulting project with the Garfield Park Community Council. It was a sustainability grant for a project to support equitable climate resilience developments that would be inclusive of long-term residents. And we refer to many of our long-term residents here in East Garfield Park as legacy residents, and then also the low and moderate income families. I was secretary for the Garfield Park Advisory Council from 2016 to 2018 and helped organize the Earth Day events with that Park Advisory Council for those years. And in my personal life, I recycle. I mean, I know that we all recognize that some of the challenges with what happens to the recycling, but I compost. I've got 2 active vermicomposting bins, and, you know, just strive to approach the way that I address food waste. You know, it's the vegetable snout to tail, so that, you know, the food scraps go either to the vermicomposting or the outdoor composting, and then I save scraps in the freezer and make veggie stock, and then that gets composted. And so I just try and incorporate, you know, what I can where I can.
Thanks, Karen. Great start. Maria, would you go next?
Sure, that's a tough act to follow there. Lots of community involvement. So Maria Cancilla is my name. I graduated in spring of 2018. As a student and currently live in North Center neighborhood in Chicago, and have lived here for about 19 years already. It's gone fast. I think the thing I'd like to focus on for this question is in my sustainability work is that as a student, I got the idea pretty early on and stayed focused on wanting to do a service year when I graduated, and was lucky enough to be able to do that with Gardeneers. And if you're not familiar with Gardeneers, and probably a lot of you are, but it's the only Chicago-based organization, nonprofit organization that not only creates school gardens, but does ongoing programming and maintenance of those gardens. And how often have you walked by a school in the middle of spring or summer or fall and seen beautiful garden beds, but they're just idle, they're full of weeds, or just not much happening there? So I was really excited to be part of this organization that stays around and doesn't just build something and leaves, but maintains the gardens, but also teaches how to garden, how to grow food, so they can have those skills forever. Also teaches, we taught how to grow, not just how to grow, but how to cook food, and like more about food systems and kind of where they are in food systems, and which ones are good and which ones are bad, and how they're contributing to that by where they live and by having school gardens. So that's probably the biggest area where I have had community involvement and was able to do sustainability minded things. In my more personal life, I am fortunate enough to live in a community where I can walk and bike just about to everything I need to. And I do that year round. And then my biggest personal project is a garden, rain garden in my yard that has a French drain and a water conserving pit. And I'm just excited to work on that every year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria. Reece?
Sorry about that. I was muted there. Hi, everybody. My name is Rhys Krishnan. I graduated in 2016 from the sustainability program. I am currently working in the energy field. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is go to a customer's house, the homeowner's house, and then show them how to save energy and consume less energy on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times a customer will have, a high energy bill, or, they have, maybe a sudden spike, and they're trying to figure out what exactly is causing that. So I walk them through potential causes for their high energy uses. And then I also install a lot of energy saving products on a day-to-day basis. So that's my contribution to sustainability. And, I'm constantly trying to learn more about energy use and renewable energies and how to contribute more and learn more and conserve more energy. So That's my background.
Wonderful. Thanks, Reece. Tiffany.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Mitchie Heightman. I graduated in spring of 2016. I'm from Joliet. I live in Crest Hill, which is basically Joliet. And in the past, when I was a student at Joliet Junior College, I was heavily involved with the Student Sustainability Union there. I, in the past, have also volunteered at Medewa National Tallgrass Prairie, which isn't terribly far from here. At present, I volunteer every year with the Blue Stem Earth Festival. It's held here in Joliet every May, and it's a big event that celebrates living with justice and care on our planet. My full-time work is I'm a licensed massage therapist, and I just feel really strongly called to work with people on an individual level, and I find it really rewarding. I often find myself contemplating sustainability on the intrapersonal level, which is to say the sustainability of, within ourselves and our bodies. I see a reflection between our inner and outer environments. And so I'm really curious these days about what happens for a person when they experience healing or overall well-being within themselves, how that translates to our external world. And my question is, can we shift, or when we, can we shift the way we live in our bodies and also shift our relationship to the world that's outside of us? That's where I'm at.
Very eloquently said, Tiffany. Thank you so much. Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. Emily Ray. It looks like my Zoom name is still my name that I use for work. Eco Achievers is the company I work for, if you're wondering why it says that. So I graduated in 2016, spring of 2016 from Roosevelt, and I currently live in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, so on the South Side, which was intentional for me for a number of reasons. I wanted to live by the lake at some point, and it's probably the only place I can currently afford to live by the lake. But I also think this community is really beautiful and has a lot of potential. And there's a lot of community building happening here, because right now it is, it's had a lot of disinvestment, and white flight happened. And if you know the history of Chicago, a lot of businesses left, steel mills closed, so this neighborhood's been hit hard, and the pandemic has been hard for the neighborhood as well. So as far as sustainability in my personal life, it was intentional to move here and to get involved with the community and start being an addition to what's already going on, because there's so many community members that I'm finding that are working in this community and making big efforts to help businesses grow, help clean up areas. There's a lot of block clubs. I joined my section. It's not quite a block. It's a multiple block area council, and they have meetings regularly and are actually very organized. I'm very impressed with this group. But they've organized an Earth Day event and many other things too. So for me, community is a big part of what sustainability is to me, because I have more of a localized idea. Like, if you can just localize everything in your life, food from close by, you grow your food, communicate with your neighbors, get your coffee from down the street instead of, farther away. That's all, that sort of thing. Just really kind of, I try to keep my dollars in the neighborhood whenever possible. And we do grow our own food, which we love to have our big raised gardens. It seems to grow every year, more garden space, which is great. It's really, I've always gardened, so whenever I lived in apartments, even, it was like big pots everywhere, moving around pots. So it's a lot easier now that we have a house. So that's wonderful that we have some space. But outside of my individual life, I work with a company called Eco Achievers that we are energy raters and energy consultants. So if you ever see one of the Roosevelt buildings is LEED certified, we work as a third-party entity to help complete certifications for buildings, LEED, Energy Star, Passive House, Zero Energy Ready, lots of different certifications. But the thing I enjoy the most about that is that a lot of affordable housing projects get money for having a green certification. So I end up being able to work on a lot of affordable housing projects, which for me is very satisfying to help, provide more energy efficient, units, more units for affordable housing. So that's sort of my download.
Thank you so much, Emily. Wow, I have to say I'm blown away by these stories and how you all have articulated them to start off our session. I know that probably everybody here has a story to share, and I wish we could hear them all in our short time together. But instead, I will move to around my second question, which is a very personal question, admittedly, and that is, what does Earth Day signify to you personally, since we're having this conversation on Earth Day, the 51st Earth Day, I might add. And I'm going to change our order and just kind of randomly ask Maria to start us off with that question.
Sure. So the word that comes to mind when I think about this is awareness. And it's a broad term, but I think awareness for everyone. So like I was thinking about like, what do all of our inboxes look like right now, like this week? All the things that come that just, they're either articles about Earth Week, about maybe status of what we're doing, both globally and on community levels and everything in between. But also I noticed that, and I think that's great because of course we have subscriptions to all these sustainable minded things because that's what we think about. So what I was struck by this week is like the news shows that I watch every night have incredible stories about things that I've been learning so much, on companies that are like right here in Skokie that I've never heard of that are doing amazing things with the emissions from steel mills and turning them into liquid ethanol. And like, I didn't know that was happening. And so there's just this awareness that comes with the celebration of recognizing our planet. And then for those who maybe aren't as sustainably minded, another thing that came in my inbox today was from the Cubs, and it was it was selling something, of course, but they were partnering with an artist called Penny Pinch who upscales old jerseys and makes tote bags and hats and things that are upscaled. So he never buys anything, which is amazing. And then so somebody who maybe is just a Cubs fan buys this and then suddenly starts thinking, wow, like this is doing something. And then all the proceeds go to Chicago Gateway Green, I think it's called, which maintains sustainable landscapes on Chicago highways. And so what that does is kind of like what Gardeneers is doing, is that they don't just plant a tree and that's great and then it dies, but they also like maintain these landscapes. So like these little ripple effects that happen because of these celebrations, just that's what I've been thinking about. And then on a personal level, I think it just makes me double down on my sustainable commitments. So I was thinking, like, this week I ordered some new plants, locally grown, of course, that will contribute to my perennial native plantings in my rain garden. And I'm also more devoted than ever to reuse. So really cutting back on recycling and finding uses for everything I would otherwise throw away.
Thank you, Maria. Great initial response. I'm glad you worked in the Cubs somehow. Wondered when that would happen. How about Reece?
I need to get quicker with the mute button. Yeah, what Earth Day signifies to me is, as Maria said, awareness, right? It gives you an opportunity to reach out to people that maybe not have not been exposed to sustainability as often, or the finality of our resources as well. So it's also a time to appreciate and recognize just what we have today around us, right? Like, we have water available to us because, yes, the municipality has a obligation to do that, to provide that to us, but also because we live so close to Lake Michigan. So just appreciating the resources we have, and recognizing where we're going to be in the future. Like, I just saw a forecast for just water dependency and availability in the future. And, I don't want to make it sound dire, but, in the next 20 to 30 years, water itself, will not be as available to people on the coast, especially. So, it's about spreading awareness, appreciating what we have today, and then just engaging with people about it, and showing what it means to you, what the earth means to you, and what the value of life that you have, expressing that, I feel.
Thank you, Reece. Karen.
Yeah, Earth Day for me, I see it as a day of action and a day of service. It's a day when we, the people, speak out on behalf of the planet. And I think about the very first Earth Day in 1970, and it led to so much the creation of the EPA and establishment of OSHA, and the years later the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. Like Reece, what you were mentioning. I mean, water. Some of water is a topic for me that will come at some of the other questions. And I think about the future, and I concur. We are very fortunate to be a city that sits on, the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. It doesn't go unnoticed. I can promise you that. I didn't mention to our guest and everybody that I currently work at the Garfield Park Conservatory. Just wanted to say that I talked about all this other work that I do, but I'm proud to be an employee of such a one of the best botanical garden in the nation. But yeah, Earth Day, for me, I think back, I was in Girl Scouts. We had our eco action things happening many years ago. And Earth Day is for getting out and, a day of service.
Thank you, Karen. Emily?
So kind of mirroring my first response is Earth Day for me is about community, and similar to Karen's response, that community action and community togetherness. There's a couple of things that happen in these Earth Day actions, and you're not only doing something to better the planet, whether that's planting trees or cleaning up the beach or your neighborhood or what have you, but you're also doing this in, participating in this with the other community members that also, feel like they want to do something and they want to see the planet be in better health. So that's a big part of Earth Day for me. As a side note about water, yeah, the access to fresh water is probably the reason that I won't move away from Chicago, because I've considered it a couple times, like maybe I would live somewhere else, but the future of fresh water, I think it got to be by the Great Lakes. So, but yeah, Earth Day for me, I'd say action and community involvement.
Thanks, Emily. Tiffany?
Yeah. Hey, speaking of water, guys, Joliet's about to start sipping out of the straw too of Lake Michigan. So anyways, yeah, Earth Day. It's a time to celebrate, reconnect with friends like we are right now. On a personal level, I find myself reflecting a lot on the fact that, okay, the Earth is going to be here for a lot longer than ourselves, regardless of our actions. So for me, this is a good time to just check in with myself about how I am spending time on the planet and how I am influencing, my small corner of the Earth. And I hope that, whatever ripple effect that I might have, it's one that, promotes wellness, and that maybe even if the ripples only last a few minutes or hours, maybe they last for years to come. It feels like I made a difference.
Wonderful responses, everybody. Thank you so much. For this next question, I'm going to try an experiment. And instead of calling on our panelists, I'll just let you be moved to speak up. Let's see how we manage that little task with 5 of us. But here's the third question. And this is really getting us thinking about current Roosevelt students as well as your fellow alumni, particularly those who are studying sustainability and or advocating for social and environmental justice. What advice would you give to either the students or the alumni or both, based on your own thoughts and experiences? Karen.
I feel like I'm back in class and always the one, like, I raise my hand trying to give others an opportunity, but like, I always have something to say. I definitely would recommend that that you look for organizations to get involved with. And I know that, Emily brought me into the Chicago Sustainability Leadership Network, the acronym CSLN. And, it's a great opportunity to see what other projects people are working on and help them out, or, throw out your own idea for a project. I think a lot of, sustainability students, alumni, and sustainability-minded people have great ideas of, presenting solutions to issues, and often there's going to be an organization out there that has started to do that work. I find that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so then supporting some of the work that's already been started is a good way to then, keep expanding your networks and connections. Another organization is Women in Green. And I believe it was Vicki Gerbrick who turned me on to them. They go by the acronym WIG. And, they do pre-pandemic, we're doing, meetings, and it was a great network opportunity. I've met a number of new colleagues and friends through that organization. And also signing up for newsletters. You can always delete from your email or unsubscribe, but I've found that useful for me on some of the other things that I'm interested in, and, environmental justice. So there's the Little Village Environmental Justice Organization. I haven't become actively involved with them, but I get their newsletter and I can keep abreast of what they're working on. NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council. I get their newsletters, Open Lands, organizations like that. And I think that this is a useful way to see what's being done. It helps you, develop your own ideas on what solutions you have, and you'd pick ones that apply. Like, I'm very interested in policy. So like NRDC, those like legal things, like making sure that we keep things like the, Clean Air Act around, and or if they erode, what it's done for us. So yeah, I recommend getting involved with organizations and, expanding your networks, and whether it's physically present or just newsletters or something like that, I think it's really helpful.
Great ideas, Karen. Who's
I'm
next?
going to piggyback off of Karen, because I have very similar advice. And what I was going to say is basically just grow your network. A, grow your network, but B, also, especially if you're graduating and starting to go out into the world, and you're looking for opportunities for work and not just, looking to, engage. Try to define what you actually want to do. A lot of times when you're graduating, hopefully you have gotten an idea with the different sustainability courses that you may have taken, what kind of realm of sustainability you might be interested in. I knew broadly when I graduated, that I wanted to work in some sort of community development type of realm. So I actually made business cards for myself that said my little motto of merging the built and natural environment and uplifting communities with sustainable development, and just had my name, my sustainability studies BA, biology minor, and then my focus and my contact information, so that as you are, as a way of growing your network. I think now with all the virtual events, making sure that you update your LinkedIn, use LinkedIn, because that's what a lot of employers and other professionals use. Just update that with basically what you're interested in working, and if it's community gardens, if it's food justice, water, anything having to do, energy, whatever you're interested in, so that there's you have an idea of the type of connections that you're really looking for, but also make connection, like grow your network with everyone. If you're a current student, your peers are part of your network, and so make sure that as you're in these classes that you are connecting with with the people around you, because as you all graduate, you go out into the world, and then they are other professional connections, and it's good to be able to see what they're doing, and if it's something you're interested in, then you can connect on that. So that's my 2 cents of basically just grow your network and connect with everyone possible, and join the organizations like Karen was saying.
Okay, I'd love to jump in here. Just I think everybody here has kind of been on a really important theme, in that I think what happens in classes sometimes is we get it can be sometimes a little depressing and we get kind of lost in the hugeness of the problems that we face on our planet. And I think I love that everyone here is talking about what they can do in their communities. And I think that that's really where your focus can start there, because if you start in your community, you're able to make a difference, even if it's on a personal level, or maybe to one or two people. That action is something that's somewhat measurable, and you can really see it. And I think it's important to start there, because otherwise you do get a little bit lost in just, oh, there's so many problems. How are we going to do anything? and communities are strong, and like both Karen and Emily have said, there are a lot of, especially in Chicago, there's just so many great organizations to be a part of. So definitely, I think like just look around, like your own backyard first is a great start. And then I have some other advice that's a little different probably. But as I was trying to clean out my almond butter jar this morning, and not using too much water and trying to get everything out of it, and I was thinking about what patience it takes to be a sustainably minded individual. I think all of us who are studying this and working in these fields are very patient people. But I think also we need to exercise our patience in a slightly different way. We need to have patience with those who aren't sustainably minded. And I think we forget that sometimes, and we want, we have passion and energy and we want everyone to be SUST. But that's not the world we live in. So I think we need to be patient with those of us who, maybe still don't know how to recycle correctly, or whether it's, in our household or in our communities, or maybe just don't think about like how much water they're using every day on their lawn. Those kinds of things are hard, and sometimes it's frustrating, but I think showing compassion and patience and thinking of things you can do to maybe counteract actions that you don't think are very sustainably minded is a great start.
I'm ready. Maria, that's so awesome. I love that you brought up patience and compassion. I think those are things that we really need right now. Yeah, the world's problems are they feel too big, for us sometimes. And yeah, I have some very specific advice for RU students and recent graduates that I'm pretty fired up about right now. And that is, please seriously consider running for local office. Maybe sometime down the road. If not now, please just become involved in the campaign of someone who you do believe in, who is running for office, because it's just become apparent to me that it's really hard and really slow going to create change from the outside. So I think as a movement for social and environmental justice, we need to get even more outside of our comfort zones and work harder to change or enforce policies from the inside. At the very least, let's just try to start getting our friends and families and our neighbors to vote. I had a really eye-opening experience with the April 6th consolidated election. There was someone running for local office who I really, really wanted to see get elected, and even went out and canvassed for the first time in my life, which was actually really fun. But I was really disappointed at the complacency that I still see, even after the 2020 presidential election and the chaos that ensued. I can't believe how much complacency there is within my own family, let alone my neighbors. Will County, where I live, we saw a 16.7% voter turnout on April 6th. And so while it was enlightening, I'm also really motivated. I want to do better, and I want the people who are in school right now and who are graduating to really give this some thought about let's get in on the inside, guys.
So just to echo what everybody else said, I mean, getting engaged is really the goal. Getting more involved with different groups, whether it's volunteering, at a food bank, which is something that I took part in. It taught me a lot. Just it feels good for one, just to do something for other people, and you're not necessarily doing it to gain anything in return. It's just you're doing it for the betterment of your community. And that same applies for work as well. if you're looking for opportunities, you might think you have to get an internship in order to be successful and to get that job. But the reality is, by participating in different groups, you're going to open up those doors. Somebody could offer you a job. You could end up at a nonprofit that you didn't see yourself working at. So these are opportunities that come just from being willing and able to put yourself out there and to give back in some way. And then on the other front, I know a lot of the panelists here talked about policy and law. And that's something that I've realized as well over the years, is that to really make a contribution and to make the biggest impact, policy is really the way to go. Even if, as Tiffany mentioned, canvassing for a candidate that you find promising, that embodies what you believe in, that has a big impact and a lot of value. The participation is what is going to make the biggest difference. And ultimately, if there's one thing I would say, it's just that don't look at it as what can I get in return. Just look at it as what can I gain from this in terms of like knowledge and growth and sharing what you may know with somebody else that doesn't. So that's something that I would pass on.
Thank you, everyone, for these responses. Wow, I feel like we're conducting together a master class on sustainability at the personal and community level right now. And part of me is thinking, I can't wait for this recording to be finished once, after Earth Day, so that I can have my current students watch it and integrate it into my class. I am mindful of the time and realizing it is almost 1:45. We only have about 15 plus minutes left. And even though I have a very big question in the wings about the future, I also want to give our studio audience a chance to ask questions of our panelists in case there are thoughts out there in our group, and get them involved a little bit. And if need be, I can come back and ask my other question to kind of wrap things up. So I am inviting someone to put a message in the chat, and I'm already seeing one from Anne-Marie Kusick. I'm wondering if our wonderful alumni panelists could share a Roosevelt memory and connect it to their lives now. Anne-Marie, that's a great question. Anybody want to take that?
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is something that came to mind this week, and it's about my sustainability, one of my sustainability practices, which is tied to water, which has come up. So I guess I'll say the practice first, and then I'll say how it came about, which is I never do laundry on rainy days. And the reason, and I think I see Mike smiling, I think he might remember this story, but my first class, which was a service learning class on Chicago Lights Urban Farm, we, of course, took a canoe trip. And as we kind of parked our canoes in Bubbly Creek, and I don't remember his name, but I do remember his pleading with us. But one of the directors, I think the director of the Friends of Chicago River, kind of really pleaded with us and said, if you do nothing else, don't do laundry on rainy days, because, the locks open up, and, the deep tunnel only takes so much. And if we overwhelm our waterways, which happens, those extra loads of laundry can really put us over the edge. And suddenly the sewage is going where it shouldn't. And that has just really stuck with me all this time. And this practice has been with me, and I think it will be for life.
An RU memory. So Mike, do you remember writing Urban Nature? And it was a creative writing course. We spent an entire week visiting natural areas throughout the Chicagoland region. And that just still shines in my memory as one of my favorite classes ever in my whole life. And it really brought me a sense of place. It connected me to my home more, and it made me care about it more. And of course, when we were, when Mike was our tour guide on, to all these places, we were getting history lessons too along the way. It just added a richness to myself as a citizen here, and it helped me to care more. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. And thanks again, Mike.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to jump in because Tiffany, yes, that urban writing Urban Nature was
It was so fun.
Was unique and definitely had a big influence, still has a big influence. So just specifically, it was one of the writing piece, I think, one of the final assignments, and like I'm very proud of what I wrote. And like for me, it was the red-winged blackbird, because in every place that we went, there were red-winged blackbirds. And I don't think I'd really noticed them or understood or, knew much about them until this. And now, as I live in East Garfield Park, I live not far from the Conservatory where I work, and I don't have a car, and I walk or ride my bike, and in the park, there are the red-winged blackbirds. And many people don't like them. I know they can be very aggressive when they're nesting with their young, but I love them. And it all comes back to that urban writing class. But I also wanted to just take a moment to respond to Elizabeth had asked a question about advice for sustaining environmental and social justice efforts through challenges and or defeats. And, community level work in social justice and environmental justice is very challenging. Anyone that's done it knows that's messy, and to not be discouraged that, the lessons that we learn, so challenges that present themselves, or what you view as a defeat, these are, and they really are opportunities to learn, to do something differently than, to change your direction or strategy in just, a slightly different way, to learn from those experiences of challenges and defeats. And that, an analogy would be, you plant a bunch of seeds in some soil, not all of them grow, and some of them do. So are you going to stop planting seeds? No. You understand that, like, you just have to keep trying and to recognize the rewards in plants that grow, or successful efforts in working in these social justice and environmental justice areas, and to look at the ones that aren't as fruitful. They, if they are defeating, feeling that they are not necessarily defeats that, are a loss. I think that, glass half full, and that you look and say, I can learn and do something differently and keep it moving forward.
So to add on to Karen's response to that question, I think we've seen a few sort of heart-wrenching defeats recently, especially with the there was a hunger strike that was kind of shut down by the administration and ignored, and the plant is moving to the southeast side anyways, and that is a tough one to swallow. That area certainly doesn't need any more industry, so that can be very disheartening. But as Tiffany was saying, why was that a defeat? What could have prevented that from being a defeat? a lot of that comes in administration. So that running for office or really supporting voting in people that care more about our disenfranchised neighborhoods and more about environmental justice. Sometimes you kind of have to take a look at why something was a defeat and change your direction of how to approach it, and just keep working just keep working at it, because that's all we can really do.
I guess I'm up. So just to go back to the positive memories I had at Roosevelt, I cherished my time I spent at Roosevelt, of course, and in particular the community garden class had a big impact on me. Just seeing how this small group of people came together. And they grow vegetables for their community, which the residents can pick up at any time, and they all work together to do so. It inspired me to start a vegetable garden at my parents' place. It's a small little plot, but it's still going, and it I'm able to get to harvest some fruits from that, right? So I mean, I gained a lot from that experience. I learned a lot. It gave me an idea of what the world could look like, if every community, especially underprivileged ones, were able to grow and share and harvest vegetables for each other. Like, I think that's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I definitely appreciated that experience that Mike allowed me to have, through the program. So yeah. That was my memory.
I remember those classes that people have mentioned very well. They are burned into my brain, by the way, just so you know, everybody. Anybody else want to respond to either Anne Marie's question about a Roosevelt memory or Elizabeth's question about Go ahead.
Some of the best time, I'm going to type this. Some of the best times I had at Roosevelt were my sustainability courses. Like, for example, in my last year there in Mike Bryson's the Sustainable University class, my group's project was developing the Sustainability Living Learning Community, which took off the next year, the year after I left. And working as a Roosevelt University Environmental Sustainability intern, I helped Roosevelt achieve Tree Campus USA 2016 recognition.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing that memory, David. Go ahead, Emily.
I was just going to say that it's sort of also an advice, but a reflection on my time at RU. I not only took sustainability, the sustainability studies courses, but I also took environmental justice and environmental policy courses at the same time. Bethany Barrett was the one doing those classes at the time. I hope she's still doing them, because they were really fruitful for me in sort of having a cohesive look at sustainability, and especially in Chicago. And one of those courses was, we went all around to different areas of Chicago that were areas of environmental injustice, and being able to see that and look at it from the policy side, and then think about it from the sustainability side was sort of a really rounding for me. Also, I hope you're still going to Eden Farm, because that place is amazing and holds a dear place in my heart. So
we are 2014. Your year was the first year, and we'll be back there in 2021 after a COVID-19 hiatus. I'm glad to report. We have about 5 minutes left in our session, and I'd like to take moderator's privilege by going, and we've already addressed this a little bit, but my final question for our panelists was, what are the most important challenges ahead of us as you see them? And what gives you hope for the future? So I know that you could take it either in the hope direction or the challenge direction, your choice. Any responses to that question from our group?
Yeah, I'll respond and I'll try to keep it brief. And I'll try to address both. Big challenges I see are, the polarization and the complacency, as I mentioned a little earlier, and just not being able to get on the same page as our fellow Americans about climate change or fill in the blank, whatever else. But I do see hope in things like the United States is rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement and setting some ambitious goals to get our greenhouse gas emissions down. And I also see hope, like on a smaller, more daily basis, just in everyday interactions with one another, like the moments that remind us of that we're all humans. We have that basic commonality, and maybe if we can soften our judgments about those who think differently than ourselves, maybe we can find some real unification and a path forward.
I have a quick response. So important challenges, I think, the most important challenge is just not to go back directly to the way things were. We've sort of been given an opportunity where everything paused, and we were able to see, there's actually a documentary out about it now, what happened to the world when we all just sat still and the world got to, the nature got to do its thing without human interaction. And newsflash, nature did a lot better without a bunch of humans going around and interacting. So I think the challenge is to not just go directly back to what we've been doing. And what gives me hope is that I've seen a lot of people take advantage of the big, change, the big interruption that had been thrown into everyone's lives to actually make a turn towards living their life in a more fulfilled way. They've opened businesses or just kind of taken the advantage of, to make a change towards living in a way that they feel more fulfilled. So I hope enough people have that feeling that we can kind of move forward in a more positive way.
I can jump in and say that I think one of the most important challenges for us looking at sustainability, environmentalism in the trio, people, planet, profit, for me right now, people, institutional racism, and I think in sustainability itself, acknowledging white privilege where it exists. It's going to be difficult to really see some changes that we need to see until our nation is able to have a conversation about reparations. And what gives me hope is that I see it happening around me. I think we all have seen people taking action to the streets, but also to elected positions, like Tiffany said, so that we're seeing some of those changes start to happen in response. So that gives me hope.
Just to add to that, yeah, I would say I remain hopeful, for the future, primarily because of what I've seen in the past year, with the pandemic, of course, as everybody mentioned, and also the election cycle, seeing people engaged in politics, and knowing that these things are what have such a large impact on all of our lives. Not just necessarily having your candidate, avow your beliefs and get into office and put those things into action, but collectively, like on a community basis, I think people are getting more involved in their communities in election cycles, whether for local office, and I remain hopeful, that people recognize the urgency that we have to enact change. And I see it happening, day by day. It's those little interactions day by day with different people that are going to have the biggest impact. That we change our habits daily, and collectively, leave behind fossil fuels, and progress towards like a more renewable, sustainable world. So I remain hopeful, and I think it's a matter of time before we get there. Just how long is it going to be? It is the ultimate question.
And I know we're just about out of time, so I won't go on forever. But just really quickly, I'll just speak to the hope part. And I think my answer, I think, like before this year, it always kind of went towards the next generation, like really looking towards the junior high activists that really care about climate, and Greta Thunberg, and that generation. But just recently this year, I find hope in what's happening right now, and that our older generation that's in leadership, like our president and Schumer and Pelosi, seem quite dedicated to climate change and to really making changes. And I think what we'll find is that the hope is in the balance. It's the future generations, but it's also the people who are in leadership now doing what they need to do and doing the right thing.
I want to thank our panelists for a fantastic dialogue this afternoon. I am kind of, blown away. That's one phrase that comes to mind. Grateful, inspired, edified. I really thank you so much, not only for your participation, but even more for your meaningful thinking and contemplation that went into just this topic, which is all encompassing and can be overwhelming. But I love how you all cut it down to size in a good way and made it accessible, made it personal, stressed the local, and really didn't forget about the big picture. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who attended today. I am grateful to you all as well for your participation and your interest, and hope you enjoyed listening to our distinguished alumni. And finally, I want to thank Christy for inspiring this event with an idea and an email to me and supporting me as I suggested this alumni panel. Thanks, Christy. Everyone, happy Earth Day. Please take care of yourselves, take care of your families and communities, and stay in touch. Please reach out to me and let me know how you're doing. I always love to hear from alums as well as our current students. It's great to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike, so much for leading this discussion. And thank you to all of our alumni and just the amazing work that you're doing in your communities. This was just a wonderful conversation. And there are quite a few takeaways I have written down in my notepad right here. And I don't think I will ever do laundry on a rainy day again. So thank you so much for sharing that, Rhea. And thank you to everyone for joining us. This is recorded, so it will be posted and shared. You'll receive the recording. And again, we have a session at 6 p.m. this evening if you'd like to join that discussion too. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Beep. Bye.